Hey, welcome back to What's New with Mead. This episode's a little different. I want to spend some time talking about where I've been and kind of the future of the podcast. The podcast is going to continue. I want to make that extremely clear. It's just going to look a little different, and episodes might not be as often. And this is namely because, as many of you might know, I had a kid, and life has gotten very busy, and that's okay. I love it. But it means that I've had to shift gears a little bit on how things work. So in this episode, I want to introduce that idea, how I'm going to change the content up a little bit to get you more content in the future, and then also just give you a where have I been. So I know this is boring. Some of you guys are in it for the one-on-one interviews, which I would love to continue those, and I plan to continue those. But if this is not your cup of tea, then I understand. Anyways, where have I been? I had a kid 5 months ago, and life has been real busy. I think the last podcast episode that I put out might have been right around that time, if not before. So it's been a hot minute since a podcast episode has been posted, and that's just, again, because I've been busy. I've had to restructure kind of how my content works and how I record and edit things because, again, time has gotten a little bit harder to plan as far as making more content. I'm still brewing a ton. That's the crazy part. I'm brewing the same amount, if not more, than when I was without a kid. The difference is I'm not doing as much video shooting, and that's partially because I don't want to say I got tired of shooting video, but when you do 400 to 500 videos like myself, you get a little bit bored of shooting the same content. And especially when you're trying to put things out, obviously there's only so many times I'm going to put out a certain mead. I'm not going to put out 7 videos on a mixed berry mead. So when I brew that, I have the one video of one I've done, and then I just do the ones for fun. And I've got a lot of fun brews that I've been doing, not as much for video. I am changing my content on YouTube slowly to be more test-oriented, meaning I really love, as you know, the A/B test kind of format. And I've been doing that with a bunch of different variables. I've really decided to take my content away from namely recipes to switch it over to what happens when you use spring water versus this tap water, or what happens when you only use potassium sorbate and, instead of potassium sorbate and metabisulfite in a brew or stuff like that. So those kinds of videos are going to be coming out. They're different though. They're not recipe content as much. So if you like the recipe content, you can go back in my catalog and see all the ones that I've posted. So those are big changes. Those are things coming down the pipeline. Now for the podcast, that's all YouTube video stuff. For the podcast, my plan is to continue this, or I guess restart it back up because it's been a hot minute. What I'd like to do is ask for your help in helping me to find guests. And I don't mean to put the work on anybody, but one challenge I've found recently is that I just don't have as much time to be able to email out to people, to get guests, to find new people to interview. And so I'm going to ask for some help in that from now on, I'm going to be still doing some of that when I have time, but I've also wanted to see what kind of people you guys can bring in or you have in mind. So there's a Google form below that has some questions on it. And this Google form is intended for you to recommend people to come on the podcast and chat about things for meaderies, for specific brewers, for other just people in general that you think would be really interesting podcast guests. Now, I can go and say there's no guarantee that I'm going to be able to get them on the show. I will sure try. And, if it's you personally reaching out, that's awesome. That's an easy one-way communication. If you recommend somebody, I'm still going to have to do the reaching out, which is fine, but there's no guarantee I'm going to get that person. So that's part of it. Now, on that form, you're going to see some things, the name of the person who is interested, a little bio about them so that I can learn about them some that will help me out as well. And then some topic, like a couple of places for you to put some topic of conversations, because as much as I know you guys are awesome people, I don't want to just have a random person request to be on the podcast and then we get on a Zoom call and there's nothing to talk about. I want us to have a good conversation to curate good content for the people who are listening. So that's kind of why that's there. Don't be offended that it's there. I will go ahead and vet these and see about reaching out. And again, there's no guarantee that I'll be able to get everybody onto the podcast. But that's one way you can help me. If you have people you recommend to be on there, nominate them or put some information about them, ways that I can contact them. Preferably, it doesn't help if you say, hey, you should talk to such and such meadery in Nebraska, and then you don't give me any contact information. Like, the whole point of this is for us to make this a little easier. And the whole point is hopefully for me to be able to make more content for you to listen to. I'm intending to, of course, continue to reach out independently when I find people and do things. It's just going to be a little bit slower. So if you want to help, check out the Google form and we'll get some new podcast episodes done. As far as scheduling for them is concerned, it is, again, all about timing. So if I get a request and I'm not able to get a recording date for you until 2 months later, that's not to hurt your feelings. That's just the reality of life. And so we'll work through that together. But that's the new content format for the podcast. I've had a lot of people really interested in the podcast, which is awesome. I've had quite a few comments recently saying, hey, where are the new podcast episodes? And it's just been busy. So if you're one of those people who's asked, just been busy. So that's what's happening. The podcast is continuing to run. There's the video format. There is the audio format. If you want to see me on a monthly basis for a podcast, the Homebrew Guys is my main one. Maybe not main one, is the one that's more consistent. That's done with myself and BC from Doing the Most. Once a month, we get together and we talk about the brewing news from around the world. We just kind of chat for an hour, and it's super fun. We have a good live audience when we do it as well, so that's very cool. So you can check that out. It's the Homebrew Guys podcast. So that's what's happening. If you want to keep following the YouTube channel, of course, please do. Not going to go into all my brewing escapades here, but you can hop into the Discord, my Discord, Man-Made Mead, and join. And if you want to hear about the things I'm doing and brewing, you can ask in there. But thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this podcast. I apologize for the delayed amount of content that will be around. As you know, life is busy. I hope you all are doing well, and I hope you will come back for the next episode of the podcast. I can guarantee you I have a good one coming up. Hopefully they're all good, but I know a good one coming up in the future that I need to schedule is with Texas Longhouse Mead. We've done what will be the third part of a 3-part series for his meadery and the building of his meadery. So you can hopefully see that in the coming months, because we're going to go down and visit him in person and do the podcast live in the meadery. And there's an episode 1 of him just talking about it. There's episode 2 of him starting to construct it. And we're going to go sit in there, drink mead, and talk about it. So it'll be super fun. Check out the Google form if you'd like to help. And I'm going to put that out as well for other places. And we will see if we can get some more content scheduled for you to consume. I'll see you next time. Cheers.